Okay, great. Cut my bangs too short. Looking good. Looking great. Let's get started. Hey everybody. Welcome to Yo Auntie Miko. My name is Joni Oldhoff. I am Cree and mixed Scottish heritage, belonging to the Mitchell Nation. I'm an educator, writer, speaker, and anti-racism consultant. I'm for hire for workshops, private, corporate, and or public, and speaking engagements. So yeah, please reach out if I can help you with your EDI education at all. Yeah, so today we are hanging out and talking about land acknowledgments. How fun. Yeah, so a disclaimer before we start. Disclaimer, public service announcement. Indigenous people are not a monolith. Surprise. This means that not all of us feel the same about every issue. God, I like lip smack so much. You're gonna have to get used to it. Sorry. When it comes to land acknowledgements, there are many folks who really, really love them. They are very significant for a lot of people, and that's fantastic. There are others who are very indifferent to the whole process and to land acknowledgement. And there are those who despise them and think that we should forego them altogether. All of those are totally valid. You know, it's a spectrum, and that's okay, right? None of us are going to feel the same about anything. And so, yeah, that's where we're at. I'm not here to speak about intertribal or intercommunity discourse. There's going to be room for that later. You can check out my podcast that I'm working on, which will hopefully be up in the next little while, which is going to be called Indigenous Enough, which will be focusing on intertribal discourse. Yeah, particularly around identity politics. Anyways, today I'm speaking to settler folks directly. Folks who know that it's an expectation to have a land acknowledgement, but who are also cognizant enough to understand that there is something missing from most land acknowledgements. So without further ado, I'm going to teach you what to do instead of just a regular run-of-the-mill land acknowledgement, and how to add substance and how to craft it genuinely, and maybe what to do instead if you would rather just forego the whole thing. At the end of my suggestions, I'm going to read to you what I say when I do public speaking. So let's get into it. Number one, why are land acknowledgements so awkward? So first of all, my understanding is that the intention of land acknowledgements is to bring awareness to those listening about whose land we are currently occupying. Some say it's to honor the people whose land we're on. Others say to raise consciousness. In principle, that sounds like a really good idea. I mean, up until like 15, 20 years ago, Indigenous land rights and acknowledgements, even of our existence, we're not really considered mainstream. Indigenous justice, Indigenous rights, we're not on the main screen. They were not part of the mainstream media. You didn't hear land acknowledgements. It was not commonplace. So yeah, let alone expected to hear it at gatherings, right? Now we hear them every time someone is opening up a speech. Here's the thing though. Simply stating where we are isn't enough anymore. It never really was enough in the first place. We know where we are. This might surprise you, but Indigenous people are acutely aware that you are here as uninvited peoples. To me, it gives off an icky vibe to acknowledge the land without acknowledging the colonial harms that have been committed against its people. What's more, it gives off an icky vibe to not address ways in which we are responsible for correcting those harms. It's an empty gesture unless we resign ourselves to being fully committed to the values of decolonization and the values of reconciliation. which brings me to number 2. Recognize colonial harms, past and present. So in your acknowledgement, you need to address the harms that have and continue to happen and directly affect Indigenous people. This can be made in general. So you can talk about harms that all Indigenous people across Turtle Island can relate to, or it can be more nation or community specific depending on where you are and who you're speaking to and why. So for example, I may say, I understand colonization has created barriers to equal access of opportunity for Indigenous peoples across so-called Canada. Or I might say, I understand that this waterway is a vital fishing and climbing location to the Songhees Nation and has been since time immemorial. Due to colonial interference, these waters face pollution and the desecration of sacred sites. Whenever it's possible, always speak to the land and to the people whose land that you are on. That's important. Acknowledging these things means that we can't deny them anymore. If the goal of land acknowledgement is for settlers to create a sense of safety or unity with Indigenous people, then let us hear you acknowledge the harms that have happened. My nose is running. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Okay. Sorry. Remembering as you write that these harms are continuing on in very real ways right now as we speak. Remember that reconciliation is an action. And if it's an action, then you need to use actionable words and actionable commitment to relay that you're serious and that you actually care. Which brings me to number 3. Stolen, not unceded. This is so important. For the love of all that is good, please stop saying unceded. Not because it's improper or because it's not right. It's because it's not strong enough. And it's not honest enough. Use layman's terms. This land is stolen. You are on stolen land. This is incredibly important, again. When we use politically nice jargon to speak about the immense loss and pain experienced by Indigenous people, we completely take away the power that an acknowledgement can have. You have time. You're standing in front of people and you are saying, hey, we acknowledge that we're on stolen land. So let's take a minute then to talk about what that means. What are the impacts of the fact that you're standing on stolen land? What has happened in order for you to be able to be here? And when we're honest, then we bring these real issues up to people's minds, into the forefront. Because again, acknowledging isn't enough, right? We can't just say like, yeah, this is where I am and this land is stolen. Well, we know, we're aware. So why? What's happened? To give me more substance, people. We don't need allies. We need co-conspirators. We need comrades. We need you to be truthful. Use strong words as much as possible. Use words that relay your point in a succinct way. No more dancing around the bush. Okay? And number 4, commit to your responsibility as a settler. What does it mean to take responsibility as a settler? I'll have to make another video about this probably, and I will do that soon. I'm hoping to release a video every Tuesday. When it comes to land acknowledgements, you need to verbalize your commitment to these lands and to its people and to dismantling the harms of colonization as a whole. You do that by ensuring your organization has values of reconciliation built into it. If you don't, you should probably connect with me and I can help you figure out how to do that. we all hold responsibility to actionable and measurable change, both in our personal lives and in our working lives. If you're crafting an acknowledgement for your work or for your organization, let me hear about what you're doing. Let me hear about what your commitments are. I can't tell you what those are. I can't tell you what they should be. I think that it's really important for you to sit down as an organization, as a person, as a presenter, whoever you are, or whatever reason you're here and watching this video now and you want to create this acknowledgement, sit down and ask yourself, what more can you commit to beyond just acknowledging the fact that these harms exist and that you are on stolen land? So we're moving another step forward. How are you contributing to the betterment of our communities and into the communities in which you live? So think critically about it. Think about how your organization runs. Think about your business. Think about your school. Think about whatever it is. And then lastly, 5, land acknowledgements are weird. They're weird. Like, they're a weird thing, right? We all kind of feel weird when you do it. I do. I think that a lot of people do, and I hear a lot. Now, I have spoken now to hundreds of people. I have given many workshops and many lessons and lots of education to folks. And one thing that settlers ask me about almost consistently after every workshop is, how do I do a land acknowledgement in a way that feels genuine? And I'm like, maybe you don't. Maybe it's time to just forego land acknowledgement and instead exchange it for something else. And so that's what I do. I don't do land acknowledgements. As an Indigenous person, as a presenter, I don't do land acknowledgements. I acknowledge the land that I'm on, but that's not what I take that moment of time to do. I take that moment of time to share my responsibilities and my commitments to this land and to its people, and also to my Indigenous kin elsewhere. My responsibility to do better. So yeah, it's complicated, but you can do other things. So for example, again, I do a declaration of responsibility. That's what I call it. Maybe you want to call it something else. You can call it whatever you want. But I think that as a final thought, before I read to you what I say, think about what you want to say. You know, we all have these moments in time where they may be fleeting, but we're standing in front of a large group of people and they're listening to us. If you have the opportunity to have people listening to you, then use that as an opportunity to raise people's awareness, to educate others, to do something meaningful, say something meaningful, because, you know, it's your moment. What did Eminem say? Something about like, it's your moment, better never let it go. Well, there you go. Okay, this is what I say. This declaration recognizes that colonial systems of oppression have desecrated my people's home and the homes of Indigenous people across Turtle Island and beyond. That those same systems have been institutionalized and are built into the very foundation on which government, political, educational, and health institutions are built. They are also built into social structures and create intentional barriers that make it difficult or impossible for my people and other marginalized people to cross. This declaration recognizes that the responsibility to dismantle these harmful systems through direct action is imperative to improving relationships between Indigenous and settler peoples. As an organization, we at blank hold a responsibility to ensuring our programs serve the people within our communities in a meaningful way. We do this through direct consultation and relationship building to the surrounding nations. As a transplanted urban Indigenous person, I am responsible for not only honoring the land and the people who have kept it since time immemorial, but I am responsible for the continued stewardship of the lands I inhabit through the directions of the nations and their hereditary governance. I am responsible for my own education on ways to dismantle these systems, and I am responsible for the education of those around me, my colleagues, my community, my family, and my children. I understand that education isn't enough, that I must act to make meaningful change. This is stolen land. We stand on the rightful home of the Lekwungen people, Songhees, Esquimalt nations, and the Wisenek nations. Nations that continue to thrive on and caretake these territories. This is their home, and we are uninvited people to these lands. While I cannot undo 500 years of colonization, I understand and commit to my responsibilities as laid out above. It's with deep respect that I honor this land, its water systems, its food systems, its people, its clans, its matriarchs, its hereditary chiefs, and its leaders. May we all continue to walk on this land in a good way. Nihiwa kokmagnak. All my relations. But that is what I say, because I feel when we make a declaration of our responsibilities, we encourage other people to think about how they can help and make change as well. It doesn't just say, hey, we're here, and we acknowledge that you're here too. It says, we're here and we understand the impact of us being here, and we're committed to reconciling to the best of our abilities, to doing the best that we can in our daily lives, in our business lives, in our organizations, in our education system, in wherever we are, to bring awareness and acknowledge that these colonial harms that have happened aren't a yesterday thing. They're a today thing. And we are continuing to support and uplift the people of the lands on which we live. So that's that. I hope you found it educational. If you did, fantastic. That's the idea. I'm offering these videos hopefully every Tuesday if I can muster it. I am chronically ill. I am chronically poor and I'm chronically tired. So I'm going to do my best. If you want to buy me a coffee, my links are here in the comments, boop, 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 somewhere down there. I would always appreciate it. And if you want me to come and do any type of speaking, any type of education, those things I'm happy to speak upon. And you can shoot me an email. Okay. Bye, everybody.